So the part 1 of TMD was all about derangement of condyle disc complex. Part 2 we spoke about the structural incompatibilities of articular surfaces, and then coming to the part 3. Today we'll be talking about inflammatory joint disorders. All right? So let's begin. Okay, now talking about inflammatory joint disorders. Remember, anything that has itis, it's an inflammation. Okay, now let's talk about the inflammatory joint disorders in detail. So, inflammatory joint disorders of TMJ are characterized by continuous deep pain. Now, why this occurs? This is basically occurring because of trauma. The pain becomes continuous, okay, which can produce secondary central excitatory effects, which usually cause referred pain, excessive sensitivity touch, and increases protective co-contraction. Okay, and this deep pain is caused because of functional overloading. Okay, now this can be due to trauma or parafunctional habits. Now talking about the inflammatory joint disorders, they are further classified according to structures, okay, which involve synovitis, capsulitis, retrodiscitis, and arthritis. Understood? Now let's start talking about synovitis or capsulitis. So basically inflammation of synovial fluid is nothing but synovitis. Okay, and inflammation of capsular ligament is known as capsulitis. Now clinically they appear as one disorder and differential diagnosis is very difficult, and it can be differentiated through arthroscopy only. Okay, so causes of synovitis and capsulitis is basically trauma. It could be macro trauma like blow to a chin or something, or it could be a micro trauma, okay, like because of anterior disc displacement there is impingement of on the tissue, okay, so that is again considered as a micro trauma which can cause synovitis or capsulitis. Okay. Also trauma may also arise from wide open mouth procedures or abusive movements. Okay. So often the patient has a history of trauma or abuse. Okay. There is always continuous pain which originates at the joint area, and any movement that elongates capsular ligament pain increases. Okay, and it is a deep constant type of pain, also creating central excitatory effects. Okay, so if you see clinically, you can palpate the capsular ligament, okay, with a finger pressure over the lateral pole of the condyle, and it will have, the patient will feel or experience pain which basically indicates capsulitis. Okay, so if edema from inflammation is present, condyle may be displaced inferiorly, which will create disocclusion on the ipsilateral posterior teeth. Okay, and this has no definitive treatment. To the retrodiscitis, basically it is an inflammation of retrodiscal tissue. Now when does this occur? So understand, if there is any trauma like a direct blow to chin or something like that, the condyle moves posteriorly, it is forcibly moved posteriorly into the retrodiscal tissue. Okay, now this trauma injures the tissue causing secondary inflammatory reaction. Understood? And during these conditions, the condyle gradually encroaches the inferior retrodiscal lamina and retrodiscal tissue. So the history will be, there will be incident of trauma to the jaw, okay, or there could be a progressive disc derangement disorder which is causing retrodiscitis. Okay, pain is constant, originating in the joint area, okay, especially on joint movement. Okay, clenching of teeth will increase the pain, but clenching on ipsilateral side often will reduce the pain. Understood? The clinical characteristics are again limited jaw movements because of pain. The retrodiscal tissue, if it has swelling because of inflammation, the condyle will be moved forcibly slightly forward and down towards the eminence. Okay, and this creates an acute malocclusion. Okay, so there is a disocclusion of ipsilateral posterior teeth and heavy contact on the contralateral anterior teeth. So what type of disocclusion it will show? It will show ipsilateral posterior teeth will be disoccluded and there will be heavy contact on the contralateral anterior teeth, and again the treatment is not definitive. Got it? Let's talk about arthritis. It means inflammation of articular surfaces of the joint. Okay, and there are several type of arthritis that affect TMJ. So there is osteoarthritis, there is osteoarthrosis, and there is polyarthritis. Okay, in the further slides we will be talking about this in detail. To osteoarthritis, basically here what happens is bony changes starts to occur in both the articular surfaces. Okay, be it condyle, be it mandibular fossa. Okay, and this is basically body's reaction to increased loading of the joint. So as the degeneration progresses, there is loss of subchondral cortical layer that is seen, bony erosions are present, and this can be seen even radiographically. Alright, and any movement of this surface will create pain. Okay, and the jaw movement starts to restrict. Osteoarthritis basically is known as a inflammatory condition, but it is not a true inflammatory condition. Okay, but it is an adaptive stage which is known as osteoarthrosis. So here what happens, because there is overloading of the jaw, the bony structure has started to change. So it can't be said as an inflammatory disorder, okay, because it is not a true inflammatory condition, okay, but it is classified as an inflammatory condition. So if you see the history of the patient with osteoarthritis usually reports unilateral joint pain, okay, which is aggravated by mandibular movement, and the jaw pain basically is constant but may worsen in late afternoon or evening. Okay, if you see the clinical characteristics, you will see limited mouth opening as I told you earlier, okay, because it is causing joint pain. Now it will also have soft end feel. Now what happens in soft end feel? If you try to open the patient's mouth, it will start to open but patient will have pain. Okay, so soft end feel is common unless osteoarthritis is associated with anteriorly dislocated disc and crepitations are felt and reported by the patient. Okay, so treatment is basically decrease the loading of the jaw, okay, correct condyle disc complex relationship. Understood? That will help, okay, in minimizing the damage caused to this bony structures. Now talking about osteoarthrosis. So when bony changes are active, condition is called osteoarthritis. Okay, and as the remodeling starts to occur, the condition becomes stable, yet the bony morphologies remain altered. This condition is referred to as osteoarthrosis. So what happens when there was joint overloading which was occurring, it was causing the bony changes that had caused osteoarthritis. Now when joint loading becomes mild, the bony remodeling is still occurring but it occurs without symptoms. Okay, it's the nature's way of adapting to the functional demands of the system. So when functional demands exceeds adaptability, osteoarthritis begins. Understood? And the history of these patients are because osteoarthrosis represents a stable adaptive phase, symptoms are not reported. Okay, so the functional loading has become mild, so osteoarthrosis started. Okay, so what happens in this period? The patient does not have pain because it's a nature's way of adapting to the functions or functional, to bring the functional stability basically. So past history may reveal that patient had osteoarthritis. Okay, crepitations are common. Other than that, patient does not have any pain or anything. Okay, structural changes can be confirmed through radiographs. All right, to polyarthritis. So it represents a group of disorders in which the articular surfaces of the joint becomes inflamed. Okay, and each is identified according to its causative factors. Let's talk about ankylosis now. Now this is a condition where condylar movements are limited by mechanical problem in the joint. Okay, and it is not related to the any joint components. All right, now it could be true ankylosis or a false ankylosis. So basically, false ankylosis results from condition that inhibit condylar movements like muscle spasm, myositis ossificans, etc., or coronoid process hyperplasia. Whereas true ankylosis may be bony or fibrous. Now, what happens in bony ankylosis? The condylar ramus is directly attached to temporal or zygomatic bone by formation of osseous bridge. Okay, and in fibrous ankylosis, there is a soft tissue fibrous union of joint components occurring. Okay, and joint components here do remain normal, but they just end up joining or forming a bridge, which again prohibits or inhibits the movements of the condyle, resulting in ankylosis. So the most common cause of ankylosis is hemarthrosis secondary to macrotrauma. Okay, and fibrous ankylosis represents a continued progression of joint adhesion that creates a significant limitation in joint movement. Okay, even the chronic inflammation will aggravate the disorder, leading to development of fibrous tissue and causing fibrous ankylosis. So mainly this is seen in the patients who have experienced trauma like an accident or fall or direct blow on the chin, etc. Okay, so if you ask the patient for the history, the patient will tell that yeah, I have limited mouth opening, I don't have any pain, but the patient feels this is there for a very long time and does not possess a significant problem. Okay, so that's the history that the patient will give. If you see clinically, in many cases of ankylosis, the condyles will rotate, suggesting adhesion in the superior joint space, that is superior border of the articular disc, and the mandibular fossa has a problem. Because of this, condyle can rotate at its place. Okay, and the movements are still possible in the inferior joint space, that is between the condyle and the inferior surface of the disc. Therefore, the patient is able to open the mouth up to 25 millimeter if you see interincisally. Okay, but the lateral movements are restricted. So clinical examination will show relative normal range of lateral movements to the affected side, but restricted on the unaffected side. Okay, so lateral movements are seen in the affected side but not on the unaffected side. Okay, and the mouth opening is restricted up to 25 mm and patient does not have any pain. Okay, during the mouth opening, the pathway deflects to ipsilateral side and there are no condylar movement felt or visualized on a radiograph. So if the ankylosis is bony, it will be seen in the CT scan and radiograph. If it's fibrous, it won't be seen. And surgery is the only option that we can do for ankylosis. Alright. So with that, we have learned about ankylosis completely. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you want any other topics, do let me know in the comment box below. Thank you.